Hello everyone, my name is Blue Raven 666, and yes, I'm finally getting around to doing my review of Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel. Admittedly, I gotta say my YouTube feed has been making me feel a little insecure by flooding my feed with other people's videos about the show immediately after the last two episodes of this season dropped. But then I had to remind myself that I'm not a full-time YouTuber like I was back in 2020 or 2021, so I'm not immediately able to jump on it in the same way I was able to in the days when it was just the pilot. I know I have yet to do an official review of Season 1, mostly because I was still carrying a huge chip on my shoulder after the falling out I had with the fandom. Don't worry, you'll be getting a pretty good feel for my thoughts towards Season 1, as there will be a bit of comparing and contrasting that I will be doing in this video, but if you still want me to do an official review of Season 1, let me know in the comments. By the way, a lot of returning viewers have complimented me on my new avatar design. This was done by the same person that did my previous avatar sprite. Her name is Pencil Tree, and she's been incredibly nice and easy to work with. So if you want to check out her stuff, links will be in the description down below. Show her some love and let her know that Raven sent ya. And now, on to the review. For the record, when it comes to Hazbin Hotel, I've been doing everything in my power to go into the show as blind as humanly possible. Teasers, song drops, leaks, I've been avoiding all of that like the plague because I genuinely want to be surprised. So I went into Season 2 knowing nothing else other than Vox was going to be the main villain. I mean, the poster for Season 2 kind of gave that away. That Alistair's soul was owned by Rosie. Thanks, TikTok, for that little leak. And maybe the first two lines of Gravity. Again, thanks, TikTok. Really can't help yourself, can ya? Anyways, algorithmic sabotage aside, I really didn't know what to expect from this season. I mean, I speculated that we would be seeing a lot more of Alistair, since we know about his rivalry with Vox from Season 1, and that we would be seeing a lot more out of the V's than we got last season. But as to how Rosie and Lute were going to fit into all of this, I had no idea what to expect. Starting with what I loved about this season, Vox. Well, there you have it. That's a video. Alright. Obviously, I have more to say about this season than just being fed as a total Vox simp. But I know I'm not alone in saying that Vox was definitely one of the stronger parts of this season. I mean, watching him go from a character that you could barely take seriously to a legitimate threat in the show was really incredible to watch. I also love the backstory that we get surrounding his history with Alistair, his life as a human, and what he did to end up in hell in the first place. Man was an absolute menace and invented Shark Week. I just love that little detail right there. Not to mention, Vox as a character this season was just fun to watch. Whether it was with the rest of the V's mocking Charlie and her hotel, hosting a rally in front of all of hell, or absolutely losing his shit and terrorizing all of hell like he did in the finale, Vox managed to keep me hooked the entire time. And as a villain, he managed to keep me in this sweet spot of being so despicable and wanting to see him lose, but also being so enjoyable as a character overall that I didn't want to see him die. So I'm really glad we're going to be getting to see more of him in later seasons. This season also had a lot of funny moments that managed to get me to laugh out loud quite a few times. Whether it was Vox just being Vox, Lucifer being the lovable goof that we all love, or Alistair just kicking himself around in a rolling chair not giving a fuck, there were a lot of funny moments that will now and forever live in my head rent-free. This season was also the season that introduced us to Baxter, and we see him gradually becoming more and more involved with the rest of the crew at Charlie's hotel as the episodes progress. However, I really wish we could have had a bit more time with him to see how he became more involved with the group, outside of Nifty's little cockroach show or the bogus excuse he gave towards the end of the season. Which, if you didn't catch it, it had something to do with his bed sheets being folded to his exact specifications, so he just assumed that made them all friends. Which... what? Whatever, we're still glad to have you here, Baxter. Really, I feel like they could have removed the completely useless plot point of Vaggie trying to come up with a new name for herself and use that time to develop Baxter's relationship with the rest of the cast a little bit more. I know Vaggie's name change is supposed to be symbolic of her taking control of her own life and her own identity, and not just going by the one that Adam gave her, but considering all she did is remove the E at the end of her name, I mean, it really didn't need to be there. This season also brought us some pretty great songs as well. Hear My Hope takes the cake of being my favorite out of the season, with Piss, Gravity, and Love in a Bottle also solidifying themselves as among my favorites. I'm also going to give an honorable mention to Vox Populi and Vox Dei, since I do occasionally find myself bopping along to those as well. However, I found myself being less impressed by the music overall this season than I was back in season 1. Like, I kid you not, I feel like out of all the songs in season 1, the only ones I didn't like were Hell is Forever, sorry, Welcome to Heaven, and Whatever It Takes. I mean, season 1 brought us some pretty iconic bangers like State Gone, Respectless, Poison, Loser Baby, Hell's Greatest Dad, More Than Anything, Out for Love, Ready for This, all of which I still listen to on repeat intermittently, and admittedly I find myself occasionally jamming out to Hell is Forever and Welcome to Heaven from time to time, despite not liking those songs as much. But for season 2, the songs really didn't stick with me as much. I know the fandom really seems to enjoy Sarah's Confession, Don't You Forget Reprise, Losing Streak, Easy, and Brighter, but more often than not, I found myself tuning out of most of the songs this season and just focusing on what was going on screen. Maybe that's just me, though. By the way, fun little story about me and the song Vox Dei. When I first read the title of that song, I read it as Vox DEI, and I thought it was going to be a song that dove into some kind of political commentary about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, Valentino did include an A in his selection of backup dancers for diversity, but I'm so glad I was very, very wrong about that song. One thing I felt like season 2 did a lot better than season 1 was the pacing of the story. I give season 1 a little bit of slack because it was the first season, we didn't know if we were going to get more, and for only being 8 episodes, it did well for what it managed to achieve, but at the cost of making the story feel rushed, and not giving the audience a lot of time to get to know these characters or why we should root for them, unless you were deep in the trenches of the fandom back in the days of the pilot. By comparison, Season 2 makes the most of the 8-episode runtime by picking the story up right where we left off and diving right in. Save for Vaggie's whole name change arc, nothing felt like it really went to waste. Watching Vox go from an antagonist that we could barely take seriously to an actual villain that poses a serious threat to not just Charlie and the hotel, but heaven and hell alike, all while slowly driving a wedge between him and the other V's, was magnificent. Seeing Alistair conduct probably one of the most elaborate schemes I have ever seen to get out of his deal with Rosie, making a deal with Vox, having Charlie make good on the favor she owed him from Season 1, leading to Vox breaking that deal, too perfect. And then at the very end of the final episode, watching Vox indeed lose his marbles in Act 3, having the V's be the one who ultimately put a stop to Vox and his atomic crash out, seeing everyone come together at the end and saving the rest of the pentagram, and getting some character development from Abel, chef's kiss. I cried. I'll admit it. The scene with Hear My Hope made me cry. Overall, I really enjoyed this season. However, there were some aspects of it that I did take issue with. And I'm sure you all know which aspects I'm going to be talking about because it's the same 3 major issues I think everyone had with this season. First up, The frustration surrounding Charlie. I do get where people are coming from with defending this girl. The hotel is something that Charlie really cares about and is committed to defending to her dying breath. Not to mention, she's dealing with the loss of a friend, Serpentius, not knowing whether or not he was redeemed for quite some time until Emily came along to tell her. But still, her impulsiveness this season was really hard for me to watch. She should have known from the get go that contacting the V's in any form or fashion about the hotel was a bad idea. She should have known that trying to redeem someone, angel dust, in front of the V's when she didn't even know what got Serpentius redeemed in the first place was a bad idea. Vox played this girl like a goddamn fiddle most of this season because Charlie made it too easy. It should not have taken Vaggie outright telling Charlie that she was the one hurting the hotel for Charlie to realize that. She should have realized that when she realized that her little stunt with angel dust wound up hurting him, and both he and the hotel's reputation suffered for it. And really? Going on live TV on Channel 666 News to defend the hotel from Vox's expose of the hotel when she still did not have any concrete evidence to prove that Vox was lying? Ugh. I mean, I get it. She's young, she's naive, she's impulsive. Believe it or not, I was a Charlie once, caving into every knee-jerk reaction and fighting tooth and nail to defend myself, my opinions, and my beliefs, and being absolutely shit all over for it. But your frontal lobe has got to develop at some point. At some point, you need to stop and realize, hey, this shit ain't working, and try out something else. Which is why I'm really glad that Charlie came to her senses a little bit and she admitted that Vaggie was right. We got some growth going on a little bit here. Let's see if we can keep up this momentum, Charlie. Next, we have Lute. You know, when we were given Gravity at the very start of the season, and we saw this intense emotional breakdown from her as she destroyed Adam's office, I expected her to be a very serious threat this season. Yeah, Vox was set up to be the main villain for this season, but I was almost expecting Charlie to be dealing with an attack on two fronts, one being from Vox and the V's down in hell, and one from heaven in the form of Lute. And maybe the two fronts would collide, leading to Lute taking out Vox, or Vox taking out Lute. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. What I wasn't expecting, though, was for Lute to show up multiple times afterwards and not do a goddamn thing, aside from glaring and generally being pissed off about everything that's going on. I really enjoyed Gravity. I feel like it built Lute up to be this completely unhinged antagonist that decided to go rogue out of her own grief and frustration, and they did absolutely nothing with it. In an interview, Viv did describe Lute as a quote-unquote sleeper villain that is slowly being built up in a way. But if that's the route I wanted to take with this character, then I would have omitted Gravity from this season and saved it for the moment Lute officially snapped and decided to act. Yes, seeing Lute appear in scenes afterwards with Sarah, Emily, and Abel definitely added to the tension. But I feel like the tension would have been there regardless, especially in the scene where they all go down to hell to try to apologize for the exterminations. Because Lute is an exorcist, it kind of comes with the occupation. If it were me, and this is just me, I would have kept stacking these little moments of suppression and frustration on top of Lute. The failed apology at Vox's rally, being told to stand by while Sarah, Emily, and Serpentius try to work out a plan with Charlie, Abel telling her to drop her bloodlust and fall back. All of these little moments keep on stacking, and then have Gravity be her official breaking point. Stick brighter or something in its place. I don't know. And lastly, Lucifer. Oh, Lucifer. They did you so dirty this season. I mean, I understand why they went the direction that they did with his character. It would be way too easy if Lucifer had all the power in the world to smite any sinner as he saw fit. It means that Lucifer cannot be the solution to all of Charlie's problems. But they didn't just give this man a handicap by doing this. No, they went for a full lobotomy on this poor guy. Really? You mean to tell me that there is nothing Lucifer can do to keep sinners in check? You mean to tell me that Lucifer is the most feared being, or at least one of, amongst mortal souls in this universe, for absolutely no reason? And now, all of hell knows it? All of hell knows it! Again, I get it. It's stated in the series that hell is a punishment, and this is meant to be Lucifer's. But come on! You're going to tell me that there was absolutely nothing Lucifer could do here other than show off and be a silly little guy. I'm honestly at a loss here. I feel like in a way Viv is trying to have Lucifer have an adult conversation with Charlie without having an adult conversation with Charlie. That conversation being, you gotta learn to stand up for yourself. You're the princess of hell. Time to act like it. But doing this, it just hurts Lucifer as a character. Also, just my own personal hot take, in episodes 7 and 8, when Lucifer is lured into a trap by Vox and gets captured and Vox uses him as the power source for his weapon, the bit of Lucifer not taking Vox or anything that he does seriously goes on for way too long. I mean, I do imagine that Lucifer was mostly in the dark about how far things went in Vox's plan and just how much damage he managed to do, blew through heaven's defenses and blasted the gates of St. Peter right off its hinges, but this guy remained silly and unserious for roughly 99% of the time, and I'll admit, it got under my skin a little bit. A little bit more angst on Lucifer's part would have been nice, is all I'm saying. That's about it in terms of the general pros and cons I had with this season. Now, about my theories. Recap time. Firstly, just to touch base, I saw your guys' comments on my theory video about Husk being an overlord. Turns out, I was right. As a matter of fact, it's scary looking back at that video and seeing just how right I was 4 years in advance. Guess I can delete that debunked video now. Truthfully, I never wanted to make the debunked video to begin with. I just felt pressured into doing so because, really, I couldn't see Nifty being an overlord up there with Husk and Alistair. Oh, how wrong was I? Don't worry, I don't hold anything against anything anyone said in the comments of that video, because really, what did any of us know back then? As for my theory about Vox, I still think that there's room for redemption for him, but he now has the same odds as Alistair. If that's the direction his story has taken, it's going to be a very long road to get him there. Vox did end up behaving in a way that turned Velvet and Valentino against him, and frankly, I'm surprised they didn't just kick his severed head to the curb and leave without him. How's your approval rating, Vox? In the toilet! It's in the toilet, Vox! Is redemption worth it? So far, I gotta say yes. You guys were right in the sense that Serpentius just needed some time to acclimate. And acclimate he did. He seems to have adjusted pretty well to life in heaven. He just needed some time to mourn being separated from his friends in Cherry Bomb. He seems to have found purpose in heaven, and he just needed to be sad for a little bit. However, someone did leave a comment on that video stating that it is possible that there are people in heaven who have loved ones in hell that they're missing. This could potentially be people like Molly, who is Angel Dust's twin sister. She's in heaven, but her brothers and her father are not. And if it's a case where the person in heaven is missing a person who was sent to hell, and that sinner was killed off in one of the exterminations, then they're never going to be able to see that person again. And that's honestly pretty tragic. I feel like that's something that's worth discussing. Angel's Redemption, aka being redeemed for murder. This has yet to be seen, however, now we gotta lump Vox into this category too. For those who missed it, yes, it is as bad as Jim Jones. It is as bad as Charlie Manson. It is as bad as David Koresh, if not worse. Vivsy Pop has emphasized in an interview that, as it stands, Vox has been humbled, and now he has to figure out how he's going to cope with not being one of the strongest overlords in the Pride Ring anymore. In a scenario where Vox seeks redemption, given his past actions as a human, redemption might come in the form of him completely giving up his place at the top, perhaps even using what abilities he still has to lift up the voices of other sinners and giving them the spotlight he so feverishly sought after while he takes a bit of a backseat, rather than keep on clawing for power. Look, I know that's a lot to ask of a raving narcissist, but like I said, I got faith in this guy. I'm still Team Redemption for Vox. This season also saw a lot of crazy fan discussions. Some were just theories about what would be happening next in this season, others have yet to be seen and are currently still being discussed. Is the Lilith we see chilling on Heaven's Beach in this show really Lilith? Or is she actually Eve? Is Rosie secretly Lilith? Is Rosie secretly Eve? Then there was Vox's apparent offensiveness in episodes 5 and 6, I believe, 2 out of 3 of which didn't even register on my radar. Not to mention a whole ass political commentary that hits way too close to home for some of us here in the US, and that a portion of this fandom seems to want to believe isn't even there. It's a lot. Let's just start with the lighter stuff first. Personally, I think the Lilith that we see chilling on the beach here is actually Lilith. Why she's there and refuses to answer Charlie and Lucifer's calls, I actually have a theory about, which I will cover later in my predictions for Season 3. But if this were Eve, why? Why would Eve have Lilith's phone? We see that Charlie and Lucifer keep calling her. Why would Eve have their numbers? I mean, Lucifer, from that comment he made in Season 1, maybe. But why would Charlie or Lou try to call Eve, and why would Eve keep on ignoring their calls instead of being like, "You've got the wrong first, woman. Quit calling this number." For 7 years, no less. So, the woman on the beach, definitely Lilith, in my opinion. Likewise, I believe that Rosie here is just Rosie and not secretly Eve or Lilith. I do think that Rosie is involved with Lilith in some way, hence why she has such a vested interest in Charlie and the hotel, but I don't get some people's theories about her being Eve. For one thing, why would Eve basically be the leader of Cannibal Town? Is there a Bible story that I'm not privy to where Eve actively engages in cannibalism? Did she eat Adam in the literal sense? What happened? No, I think Rosie is just Rosie. From what I know, I believe she's a Hellborn, and the fact that she has blonde hair that curls forward near to where her ears would be is just a stylistic choice that kind of reflects the late 1800s, early 1900s look she's got going on here. Now let's talk about Vox, who is apparently white. I know, big surprise. The demon TV that came out of the 50s is a little racist. But some of you were quicker to clock that shit than I was. Maybe it's a little naivete on my part, but when Vox sang Mi Querida Camila and did his little cha-cha-cha here, it made me ha-ha funny. I did not clock that. Danny Mata clocked that sooner than I did. And I still don't understand why it might be upsetting to some people. So, please enlighten me. I think this is knowledge that I need. Now, Vox's comment to Val about talking in an island language? Oh, I clocked that. I mean, at first I was like, island language? Oh, you mean Cuba! You racist pig! For a moment, I couldn't believe he actually said it. Like, isn't Val supposed to be your partner? Why would you say that to him? Needless to say, watching Val launch a glass at Vox's head and screaming, "I'm from fucking Florida," is iconic, well deserved, and is definitely one of my favorite moments from this season. Something else that I clocked this season as soon as I saw it: the political commentary. Now, I know a lot of you are not here to get into politics and would prefer to keep your political discussions and your discussions about this show separate. So if you don't want to listen to me get into this, you can skip ahead to this time, where I will be getting into my predictions for Season 3. When it comes to this topic, I've seen a few who have asked, why does this have to be a political discussion? Can't we just enjoy the show for what it is? Well, because it is a political discussion. This season explores the politics of hell. One of the major themes that this season covers is dealing with disinformation, twisting other people's words and information to fit a narrative, and how no one is immune to propaganda. Vox and his supporters share a lot of similarities with Trump and MAGA. The V's initially support Vox and work to further his goals because they believe they're going to get a piece of that pie. But in the end, Vox is just in it for Vox, and Vox is not above trying to force the V's cooperation if they take issue with the things that he's doing. This is similar to how Trump tends to treat any Republicans who don't fall in line with his agenda. In the show, we see Katie Killjoy and Tom Trench with Channel 666 News constantly bending the knee to Vox and the rest of the V's to push the narrative they want to spin, which is always in favor of Vox and VoxTech, if not always against Charlie and the Hazbin Hotel. And if you look closely at the chats during these news broadcasts, you'll see that there is a person who tries to point out that Charlie is barely being allowed to speak and give them the full story, but that person is immediately told to shut up. No? None of this sounding familiar to you at all? Alright then, how about when Charlie mentions that her mother supported peaceful protests when Vox cited Lilith as the driving force for his war against heaven? You know, a figure that hell seems to have a positive opinion about that makes Vox look like he's looking out for hell and sinners in the way that she did before she left and the extermination started. Bring back the good old days, if you will. No? Still nothing? Still not clicking? Alright, whatever. What's funny about this is that despite picking up on these parallels and not being a fan of Trump or MAGA myself, Vox is still my favorite character. I loved watching him and seeing him do his thing. I did not want to see him die, or else I was going to be very upset. And honestly, that's something that I cannot say the same about Trump. So, if I'm not MAGA and I don't like Trump, why do I like the character that is basically a cartoonish version of him and enjoy seeing him do what he does? Well, in short, Vox and Hazbin Hotel are fictional. They're not real. They can't hurt me. Thus, they become fun to watch. Trump and MAGA, on the other hand, that's real. They're real people that we really share this world with. And Trump is really someone who has stupid amounts of power that I, as an ordinary US citizen, cannot even begin to fathom. MAGA consists of real people that I've had real interactions with, some of which being my own family. And that's not fun. What do both of these entities have in common with me, though? Well, I wanted to see Vox's plan come crashing down on him just as much as I want to see the Trump regime fall apart and collapse. I just hope that Trump doesn't lose his marbles in Act 3 in the way that Vox did, and that we can still get the Care Bear stare ending that Season 2 got. Personally, I gotta praise Viv for adding a political commentary into the show that I found not only relatable to what we've been dealing with for the past decade or so, but was also pretty fun to watch. It can be a little hard to balance politics and entertainment, and I feel like she did it pretty well here. And finally, let's get into some of my predictions for Season 3. Vivzie Pop has stated that Season 3 is her personal favorite part of Hazbin Hotel's storyline, describing it as really emotional and the most romantic season with a lot of twists and turns and angst. A lot of you probably already know that I'm a total angst addict, so hopefully I'm going to love Season 3. A lot of people are clocking this as the Husker Dust season, where we'll see Husk grappling with his feelings for Angel Dust and trying to get him back from Valentino. As Vox is also said to come back in this season, I'm pretty sure we're going to see him try to rekindle his relationship with Val, and personally, I would not be surprised if Val no longer wants anything to do with him after the shit he pulled. So I can see the focus mainly being on Husk, Angel, and Valentino, but we did also see that Lilith called Charlie back at the very end of Season 2. Actually, no we didn't! We didn't see the caller ID, we didn't hear her voice, all we saw and heard was Charlie's shocked expression and her say, "Mom?" For all we know, Viv could be pulling our legs with this. But if it is Lilith finally calling back after being MIA for 7 years, then I'm pretty sure we're also going to be exploring her and Lucifer's relationship a little bit. I want to know what happened. What was the dynamic like between her, Charlie, and Lucifer before Lilith left? What kind of terms did Lilith leave them both on? And why did she cut contact with both of them for 7 years? My own personal theory is that Lilith was basically running the show around hell prior to leaving. Lucifer might have been busy working with the other sins from the other rings, or maybe he had already fallen into a state of depression and was already neglecting whatever duties he carried as ruler. And we already know that Charlie really seems to struggle when it comes to stepping into her role as the Princess of Hell. So I think Lilith left and cut all contact to force some kind of action from Charlie and Lucifer, to essentially give Lucifer no choice but to step up and take on his duties as a ruler, or otherwise leave hell to its own devices, and to force Charlie to let go of her parents' apron strings and learn how to execute her plans and her decisions on her own. I find it rather interesting how up until this point, Charlie and Lucifer call and call and call, presumably to inquire about her or ask for her help or advice, but it isn't until Charlie finally calls, basically to update her on the hotel and that she got things sorted out and things are going well this time around, that Lilith finally decides to call back. Considering Vox called Charlie a pale imitation of her mother, it makes me think that while Lilith might have supported Charlie's plan for the hotel, Charlie was the one who ultimately needed to develop the emotional maturity and the resilience to make it work. Just like how it would be too easy to just have Lucifer handle all of Charlie's battles if he was able to directly harm sinners, I feel like it would be too easy to get the other sinners to listen to Charlie if Lilith was there to sway their opinion and help pick things up when things didn't go Charlie's way. I feel like in some capacity, that's why Lilith left. That's why she's been ignoring Charlie and Lucifer's calls, to get them to get their hands dirty and to do things all on their own. Part of me also wonders that with Lilith entering the picture now, if we're also going to see anything about Charlie's arranged marriage with Leviathan play out, and how it clashes with Charlie's relationship with Vaggie. Hi, Raven from the future here. This is a case of me completely misremembering the lore. I totally forgot that Leviathan was a part of a noble family in this show called the Von Eldritch family, and that he and Charlie only dated. They were not betrothed to one another. Initially, I thought Leviathan was the son of Leviathan and that he was betrothed to Charlie. I don't know where I got that info from, but my original theory with this was that with Lilith re-entering the picture, it could potentially cause some drama between Charlie's family and Leviathan's family, with Vaggie kind of caught in the middle of all this. And honestly, I gotta give props to the Hazbin Hotel Facebook group that I'm a part of for literally making a post about the Von Eldritch family as I was still working on this video so that I could record this real quick. So, shout out to you guys. You may or may not have saved this video. But still, I do still wonder if Leviathan is a character we'll be seeing next season, or if he's a character that's been dropped altogether. Outside of that, if we can get more Nifty and Baxter, or Serpentious and Cherry Bomb, I'll be pretty happy with it. And with that, those were my thoughts on Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel, complete with pros, cons, theory recaps, fan discussions, and some new theories. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you can do me a favor, like this video, hype it up, subscribe if you wanna, and if you have any ideas on what you would like to see me cover about Hazbin Hotel until Season 3 drops, let me know in the comment section down below. My name is BlueRaven666, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!